Every time you react, they win. Every time you stay calm, they lose. That's the paradox most people never understand. Toxic people don't crave your presence. They crave your reaction. They don't want connection, they want control. And the moment you respond emotionally, you hand it to them. But what if you stopped playing their game altogether? What if silence became your armor and composure became your weapon? Because real power isn't about domination. It's about discipline. It's not in raising your voice, but in lowering your ego. And it's not in proving them wrong, but in proving to yourself that they can no longer shake your peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." It sounds simple, but to live it, to truly embody it, is a level of emotional mastery few ever reach. You see, toxic people win long before you notice. They don't need to argue, they just need to make you react. They've learned how to press the right buttons, trigger the right emotions, and pull the right strings until you explode. And when you do, they smile quietly, because your chaos confirms their control. But Stoicism teaches something radically different. You don't defeat them by fighting back. You defeat them by becoming untouchable. Not because you cut them off, but because you stop feeding them the one thing they cannot survive without: your attention. Take a breath for a moment and think. How many hours of your life have been spent replaying an argument in your head? How many sleepless nights have you wasted trying to prove a point to someone who was never listening? How many times have you tried to explain yourself to someone who wasn't seeking understanding, only control? The truth is, they never wanted clarity. They wanted chaos, because chaos keeps them relevant. And when you react, you make them the center of your emotional universe. That's why Stoicism isn't just philosophy, it's emotional armor. It trains you to stay calm, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to recognize that peace is more powerful than rage. Imagine this. Someone insults you publicly. They twist your words, mock your effort, or bring up your past to embarrass you. Your instinct? Defend yourself, correct them, fire back. But what if instead you didn't? What if you looked them in the eye and simply said nothing? No anger, no explanation, just silence. That moment right there is transformation. Because when you stop reacting, you stop bleeding power. And the person trying to provoke you, they suddenly feel small. Your silence exposes their insecurity. Your composure becomes their mirror. And what they see reflected back terrifies them. Because it shows them what they could never control: your peace. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom isn't the absence of conflict. It's the absence of control over your emotions. You can't stop people from lying, provoking, or manipulating, but you can stop giving them access to your peace. And that decision, that quiet choice, is where real power begins. You don't need to cut everyone off. You just need to close the gate to your mind. Because no matter how toxic someone is, their words can't wound you unless you open the door and invite them in. Most people spend their lives fighting external enemies, but their real enemy is internal. It's the impulse to react. It's the need to be understood. It's the fragile ego whispering, "Don't let them win." But Stoicism teaches the opposite. You win by refusing to play. Picture this. A colleague at work makes a sarcastic comment. A relative throws a passive-aggressive jab. A partner says something sharp, trying to make you feel guilty. You can take the bait, feed the fire, and spiral into their chaos. Or you can breathe, stay still, and watch their flames die from lack of oxygen. That's what emotional mastery looks like. Not passive, not cold, powerful. Most people think silence means surrender. But Stoics know silence is strategy. It's the decision to protect your energy instead of spending it on noise. Because every reaction costs something: time, peace, and power. You can't control the world, but you can control the meaning you give it. You can't stop people from throwing stones, but you can choose whether to pick them up or build with them. And when you learn that, when you stop measuring strength by how loud you are and start measuring it by how still you can remain, you begin to operate at a level most people can't reach. Because silence isn't the absence of words, it's the presence of control. It's the quiet power of knowing that your reaction is your responsibility, and that no one, no matter how toxic, deserves the keys to your peace. So remember, they don't win because they hurt you. They win because you react. And when you no longer react, when you stay calm, centered, and composed, they lose their grip completely. That's the moment you stop being their target and start being your own master. And that's where the real transformation begins. Your mind is your kingdom, and most people leave the gates wide open. Every insult, every judgment, every toxic whisper finds its way in because you've never built the walls high enough. You've trained your body, maybe your career, but you've never trained your inner guard. The Stoics called this the art of mental discipline, not to suppress emotion, but to protect your peace from being hijacked by the world. Because the truth is, you can't stop people from testing you, but you can train yourself so well that their tests no longer move you. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Think about that. It's not their words that wound. It's your interpretation of them. It's not their silence that hurts. It's your attachment to being heard. It's not their disrespect that destroys your peace. It's your need for validation that gives them that power. Once you understand this, the entire game changes. Because the goal was never to control others. It was to control yourself. Picture your mind like a fortress. Every thought that enters is a soldier. Some protect you, some betray you. And toxic people? They don't storm your castle with swords. They slip in quietly through your reactions. They whisper guilt, provoke anger, and plant doubt, until your own thoughts turn against you. That's why Stoicism is more than ancient philosophy. It's psychological warfare training. It teaches you how to defend your peace in a world that profits from disturbing it. Every time you react, you open the gate. Every time you pause, you reinforce it. That's the difference between chaos and clarity. Let's take a real example. You're in a conversation, and someone throws a subtle insult your way. "Wow, you've really changed. That you used to be so easygoing." It's meant to sound casual, but it's bait. They're not complimenting you. They're challenging your calm. Now you have two choices. You can explain, defend, or overanalyze, or you can smile quietly and stay unmoved. When you choose the latter, something powerful happens. They lose control of the narrative. Your stillness disarms them. Because toxic people thrive on reaction. And when you give them none, they're forced to face themselves. Most people think peace means weakness, but peace is power mastered. It's what warriors fight for once they realize the battlefield isn't external, it's internal. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That one sentence could free half the world if people truly lived it. Because here's the truth most avoid. You can leave your job, block their number, even move across the world. But if your mind still reacts to their ghost, you're still a prisoner. Physical distance means nothing if emotional attachment remains. So what do? You train, not with meditation quotes or motivational slogans, but with daily practice. When someone provokes you, breathe. When your ego wants to respond, pause. When silence feels uncomfortable, hold it longer. Each time you do, you build emotional muscle. You teach your nervous system that peace isn't passive, it's practiced. And slowly you stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to win arguments that don't lead anywhere. You stop lowering your frequency just to meet someone in their chaos. That's the training. Because the moment you can stand in a storm and still feel stillness inside, that's mastery. The Stoics weren't emotionless. They were emotionally engineered. They felt everything, but they didn't let anything own them. They understood that freedom begins where attachment ends. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, just not destructively. You can love people and still protect your peace. You can forgive without reopening the door. You can be kind without being controlled. That's the balance most never find, because they mistake boundaries for bitterness. They think walking away is cruel, but walking away isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Ask yourself this. How many times have you re-entered chaos just to prove you're strong enough to handle it? Strength isn't walking back into fire. It's knowing when to stop burning yourself for warmth. The modern world teaches us to chase validation, defend our image, and prove our worth. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Let go of the need to be right and focus on being at peace. Because in every argument, there's a moment where you must choose peace or proof. And only one leads to freedom. Your peace is not a prize to be handed out. It's a standard to be enforced. Every person who drains you is teaching you something, where your boundaries are too weak. Every trigger is training. Every provocation is a test. Every silence you hold is a victory. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, someone tries to provoke you, and you don't even flinch. Not because you forced yourself to be calm, but because calm became your nature. And that's when you realize your mind has finally become a fortress. Not a prison that traps emotion, but a sanctuary that filters it. You feel everything, but you choose what deserves your energy. You hear the noise, but you only answer to peace. You see the chaos, but you remain the calm center within it. That's the essence of Stoic mastery. Power through peace, not to suppress, but to select. Not to dominate others, but to dominate yourself. And when you reach that level, toxic people can scream, twist, manipulate, or provoke. But their noise never crosses your walls, because your mind no longer reacts like an open door. Listens, understands, and lets go. You've become the fortress. You've become the calm. And nothing outside can touch what's finally unshakable within. There comes a point when silence is no longer just restraint. It's evolution. You're no longer avoiding confrontation because you're afraid. You're avoiding it because it no longer serves you. That's when you realize detachment isn't the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of it. The world tells you to care more, speak your truth, fight for your respect. But Stoicism whispers a quieter truth. You already have nothing to prove. Respect that must be demanded isn't real. Validation that must be chased will never last. And peace that depends on others will always collapse. When you detach, you don't stop feeling. You stop feeding what drains you. You stop pouring your energy into people who twist your kindness into weakness. You stop explaining yourself to those who hear only what confirms their bias. And slowly, you start noticing the difference between connection and attachment. Connection uplifts, attachment depletes. Toxic people will always blur that line. They'll call your silence arrogance, your distance betrayal, your peace indifference. Because to them, your emotional control looks like abandonment of their chaos. But you must remember, their perspective isn't your responsibility. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Your calmness in the face of toxicity isn't weakness. It's proof that you've evolved. Think about it. Every time you don't react, you prove you've grown. Every time you choose silence over shouting, you prove you've learned. Every time you walk away without explanation, you prove that peace has become your default. And that's what transformation truly is. Not a sudden change, but a gradual reclaiming of power you used to give away. Detachment is the bridge between reaction and peace. At first, it feels uncomfortable. You'll feel guilty for walking away, for not engaging, for not defending yourself. You'll be tempted to explain your silence, to prove you're not the bad guy. But that's your ego speaking, not your peace. Your ego wants to be right. Your peace wants to be free. When you begin detaching, the world will test you harder than before. People will provoke, guilt trip, manipulate, even play victim. Because your silence threatens their script. They've always known how to control the old you, the reactive you, the defensive you, the overgiving you. But the new you don't respond to every fire with fuel. You've learned to let it burn itself out. That's what unnerves them. Not your anger, but your indifference. Because when someone can no longer control how you feel, they lose the only power they ever had. Detachment isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's finally understanding that not everyone deserves front row access to your life. You can forgive and still create distance. You can wish them well and still walk away. You can love people deeply and still choose peace over proximity. It's not your duty to heal everyone who hurts you. Some people are meant to be lessons, not lifetimes. And one of the most profound Stoic truths is this: letting go isn't losing something, it's gaining yourself. When you detach, you start noticing things differently. You see patterns instead of promises. You see manipulation instead of love bombing. You see projection instead of truth. You start realizing that people's behavior is a mirror of their inner world, not a reflection of your worth. When someone lies, they're revealing their fear of truth. When they control, they're revealing their fear of loss. When they insult, they're revealing their own shame. The Stoic doesn't react to these things, he observes. He studies the storm, not to curse it, but to understand the wind. Because when you understand human nature, nothing shocks you anymore. And when nothing shocks you, nothing controls you. That's the secret of detachment. Awareness without absorption. You see everything, feel everything, but choose what to internalize. Ooh. Now imagine your life after this transformation. You walk into a room, and someone gives you that same passive-aggressive comment that used to ruin your day. But now you don't even blink. Their words hit a wall, not of pride, but of peace. Because you've built boundaries strong enough to filter energy. Your peace is no longer negotiable. You don't explain it, you embody it. You don't need to win anymore, you simply don't play. And ironically, that's when life starts flowing in your favor. Because the moment you stop chasing validation, you attract respect. The moment you stop reacting, you gain perspective. The moment you stop clinging, you create space for better things to arrive. Detachment opens the door for peace, for purpose, and for power that doesn't depend on approval. The world hasn't changed, you have. And when you change, everything else loses its old power over you. This is the ultimate Stoic transformation, the quiet revolution within. You no longer need to convince anyone, explain anything, or prove your worth. You no longer bend your boundaries to make others comfortable. You no longer chase closure from people who benefit from keeping you confused. You've learned that peace isn't found in fixing others. It's found in mastering yourself. You've become the observer, not the reactor. You've become the calm, not the chaos. You've become the person they can't manipulate, because you no longer respond from emotion, but from understanding. And that's the highest form of detachment. Still caring, but not carrying. Still loving, but not losing yourself in love. Still showing up, but not sacrificing your peace to do it. So remember, you are not cold for choosing peace. You are not selfish for protecting your energy. And you are not heartless for walking away from people who refuse to grow. You're simply evolving. And that evolution, that unshakable calm in the middle of noise, is what makes you untouchable in a world that feeds on reaction. You're no longer who they can provoke. You're no longer who they can guilt. You've become something rarer, someone who no longer needs to respond to chaos. Because peace has become your natural state. There's a moment after all the noise fades when you finally understand. Peace was never something to find. It was something to protect. You don't reach inner freedom by controlling the world. You reach it by mastering your response to it. That's the heart of Stoicism, and the end of the war within. Freedom isn't about escaping people. It's about no longer being enslaved by what they think, say, or do. Because once your peace no longer depends on the approval or behavior of others, you become unstoppable, not in domination, but in direction. The Stoics believed that every human being has two worlds. The outer world, full of noise, judgment, opinions, and chaos. And the inner world, quiet, steady, unshakable. Most people live trapped in the outer world, reacting to every comment, every insult, every twist of circumstance. Their mood changes with every notification. Their peace depends on how others treat them. They are leaves in the wind, constantly blown off balance. But the Stoic, the one who trains their mind, learns to root themselves in the inner world. They build their peace from principles, not people. From values, not validation. From self-mastery, not manipulation. That's what real strength looks like. Not the ability to argue, but the ability to remain undisturbed. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, loss, war, and death. Yet his writings never scream with anger. They whisper with acceptance, because he knew suffering is inevitable, but victimhood is optional. He once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." That's not denial, it's perspective. It's the art of focusing on what you can control and releasing everything you can't. That's where freedom begins. Imagine this. Someone insults you. You smile. Not sarcastically, but with understanding. Because you see beyond their words. You see a person acting from pain, confusion, or insecurity. You no longer take it personally, because you know it's not about you. That's what inner freedom feels like. The world still shouts, but it can't disturb your inner silence. People still test you, but you no longer need to prove anything. You've transcended the level of emotional dependence. But freedom isn't a finish line. It's a daily practice. Every morning you'll face choices. Do I react or do I respond? Do I defend my ego or protect my peace? Do I seek control or practice surrender? The Stoic chooses the latter every time. Not because it's easier, but because it's wiser. They understand that peace doesn't come from winning arguments. It comes from losing the need to have one. You see, every toxic person, Every difficult situation, every moment of tension, it's not punishment. It's training. Life isn't trying to break you, it's trying to build you. Every confrontation is a lesson in control. Every misunderstanding is a lesson in patience. Every disappointment is a lesson in detachment. The Stoics saw adversity as the ultimate classroom, because a calm sea never made a skilled sailor. And peace means nothing if it can't survive a storm. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, see it not as an attack, but as an opportunity to test your discipline. A moment to prove that you are no longer reactive, that your peace is not up for negotiation. And slowly the world begins to feel different. Not because it has changed, but because you have. People still talk, situations still shift. Life still throws chaos your way, but your response is different now. You no longer reach for anger, you reach for awareness. You no longer cling to control, you rest in acceptance. You no longer fight every battle. You choose the ones that align with your values and let go of the rest. You've turned Stoicism from philosophy into instinct. You no longer try to be calm. You are calm. That's when the world notices the difference. People start asking, why doesn't he react anymore? How does she stay so composed when everyone else is losing it? And that's when you understand the truth. Your calmness has become contagious. Your peace inspires others. Your silence teaches more than your speeches ever could. Because nothing commands more respect than someone who cannot be provoked. The Stoics didn't chase peace, they became it. They didn't suppress emotion, they directed it. They didn't run from pain, they turned it into purpose. That's what you've done too. Every insult that once triggered you became a lesson in control. Every manipulation that once drained you became a lesson in awareness. Every toxic encounter that once broke you became a reminder of your strength. And now you stand where few ever reach. In that rare, quiet space between reaction and wisdom. The space where peace lives. So the next time someone tries to pull you back into chaos, remember this. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to justify your distance. You don't need to fight battles beneath your growth. Your peace speaks louder than your defense ever could. Your stillness is your statement. Your detachment is your freedom. Because the real victory isn't changing others. It's remaining yourself in the face of everything that tries to make you forget who you are. That's the essence of Stoicism. That's the power of inner freedom. In the end, toxic people don't disappear. They simply lose their power. And you don't escape chaos, you outgrow it. When your peace no longer depends on anyone, when your emotions no longer respond to manipulation, when your silence becomes strength, that's when you've truly won. Not over them, but over yourself. The one who masters himself is mightier than the one who conquers 1,000 men in battle. Buddha. And that's what you've become. A Stoic warrior, undefeated not because you never fight, but because nothing outside of you can ever win again.